So right now, let's bring on two of our guests. Brandon Darby is a former left-wing activist, and Brandon Morse is creator of MisfitPolitics.co, two of my favorite people involved in the conservative movement and culture as well. So guys, the first question, we'll start with you, then you can answer. What is the biggest obstacle to conservatives as they enter the cultural battlefield?
Penny loafers?
Penny loafers, definitely.
Yeah. Definitely penny loafers. No, the biggest obstacle we're facing right now is actually our own pop culture, our own mainstream. And we need to get over this fact and stop being these political hipsters. We've been fighting the mainstream for so long that we consider it now a bad word. We fight against it. And we can't. We have to stop doing that. The mainstream isn't good or evil. It's the mainstream. And what we put into it dictates what our pop culture is. We need to start getting back into it, taking a part in it. Because without it, we're not going to win any hearts. And the first step to winning a mind is winning a heart.
Brandon? Brandon 2?
Brandon 2, yeah. I would agree with Brandon 1. You know, for a long time, you know, coming from the left as I did, I had a certain picture in my mind of what a conservative was. And even at the point that I had really become conservative, it still took several years before I would come out, before I would realize that I actually was a conservative. I'm not that person over there. I'm not Karl Rove, and not to insult Karl Rove.
You don't wear sweater vests.
I don't wear sweater vests. I don't, you know, I haven't.
I mean, not that sweater vests
I get a little rowdy.
Bad,
you know, and
they
so
are. Let's be honest. They
at some point, I began to realize that conservatism means I believe that people are served better, that life is served better, and the individual, that families, that people in need are served better by a small group, a charity, a church, or a local community, and not a far-off federal government. That is what makes me a conservative. I believe in our Constitution and the importance of right and wrong and having a moral compass for government and for citizens in the personal life. That makes me a conservative. I believe in a free market. That makes me a conservative. Now, what art I like, that has nothing to do. Like, I still like the same things. You know, I traveled Europe for a year and played guitar for a living, like on the streets, and ate cheese and bread, you know. I'm still a conservative, though, you know. And these are things that typically, I think the left of center politics and left of center media likes to promote the notion that people who do interesting things or who can live outside of the box are somehow are not welcome in conservatism. And I think that's really the issue.
So explain something to me here. How is it that we went from what the 50s, the cool kids, where these were the people who were like, oh, we need to listen to the man, and how did this all get turned around? How is it that being anti-authority turned into nerdery or dork stuff? How did this happen?
Back around the 20s, a bunch of Marxists fled Germany, and they founded something called the Frankfurt School. And these guys sought to bring Marxism to the United States, but seeing that they would fail because they can't take American culture head on. We were into freedom, and still are to this day. But they knew that to succeed, they basically had to go underground first and start from the roots. So they infiltrated and put leaders in our schools. They put them in acting troops, you know, tried to get them on the silver screen, stuff like that. Next thing you know, there's a whole culture building around it. And now it's become our pop culture. Now it's what they're selling to the kids nowadays. You have punk rock groups daring to call themselves punk rock who are advocating big government. All that started with this one school. And they've had a lot of time and practice to build up. They know how to act. They know how to get into the real foundations of any institution and make it a leftist institution. And the worst part about it is, I mean, this is what the youth is paying attention to nowadays. This is where, you know, like the silver screen, for instance. You said you saw Iron Man, last conservative, you know, Robert Downey Jr., awesome guy.
You love.
He's a conservative or libertarian.
That's what I hear. That's what I hear.
But you know, those movies are few and far between. You know, most of it is leftist leaning. And this is what the youth is listening to. They're listening to people like Green Day.
Oh, and that's not even punk rock.
No, it's not, but they call themselves punk rock, which drives me crazy.
Oh, my gosh.
I know.
Worst band ever.
Exactly.
Besides Nickelback.
They used to be. Or Creed.
Or same thing, Canadian version, American version. So, and this is something that we see with, you came from the left, like the bowels of the left.
The bowels of the left.
You were, I don't know if that's the right way to say it. You were Occupy kind of before there was Occupy. So you see all of these people, they position themselves right where the information comes out. They control how information is distributed, how it's crafted. You've seen this. How can conservatives, from your perspective, get in there, kind of do the same thing or take it over?
Well, I think the important thing is, it's like Brandon discussed a minute ago with the Frankfurt School. And then in the 60s, you saw a resurgence, and they actually tried to directly take it on. Like they began to call the police officers pigs, right? And that became a popular term. And then they lost that revolutionary push, right? So they decided to go more underground again, and now they don't talk about the police being pigs. They say, we support the police, but this cop is racist who got shot. So they went back to subtlety. So I suggest we call people out on things, and I suggest we participate. Like, I go to shows, I go to music. Sometimes when I go in certain towns where people know who I am because of the stances I've taken, it's a little awkward. But I just don't worry about it. I just go and I participate, and I call people out. When I'm at a cafe and I'm talking late at night and we're drinking coffee and philosophy, talking about philosophy and politics, when someone says, oh, you're against health care, I say, no, I'm not against health care. I'm against what Barack Obama is doing with health care. They say, you don't believe that climate changes? I'm like, I believe climate changes. I don't believe in the human causation of climate change.
It's about messaging.
And this is
taking over the narrative, and now they're able to direct what kind of conversation you're going to have before you even have it.
It's a subtlety.
And that's one of the things that you do with Misfit Politics is you combat those narratives and you essentially recraft them.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that we do is we take Alinsky tactics and we use it against the left. And a lot of people think, well, Alinsky's a bad guy. Why would you do that? You can use Alinsky tactics, and it's nothing new to the good guys. I mean, if you look in the Bible, one of my favorite stories is the prophet Elijah. And while they're doing the burning of the while they're doing the contest on the hill, he's making fun of them the entire time and just trash talking them. It's not a bad thing to trash talk.
Ridicule's a powerful
Yeah, exactly. And that's what we at Misfit Politics do. We isolate and ridicule an issue and blow it out of the water. The one that we're most popular for is Attack Watch.
Attack Watch.
Attack Watch.
Is that going to be a ringtone? That's a ringtone now,
It is a
right?
ringtone.
Okay.
It's I
have it on my phone.
I need to put it on mine.
It's also
so
it also comes in Spanish if you want that.
Are you serious? That's awesome.
Oh, yeah.
But no, that's exactly what you guys do. And you pushed the Attack Watch, for those who may be unfamiliar, that was when the administration said, we're going to basically spy on conservatives on Twitter.
Basically turn in anybody who says anything bad about President Obama.
You shut it down within 24 hours.
It was, Ezra Doulis made the video. Give him all the credit for it. But we released that video, and it did exactly what it was supposed to do. It ridiculed them into shutting up.
Right.
And because it was a dumb thing to do. It hadn't been seen since what? Nazi Germany, Russia, Stalin's Russia. It was ludicrous. And so we called it out like that. And we made fun of these people who would even think of something like that. All right? Because it's dumb. And I often joke, I have the easiest job in the world because the people that I'm making fun of, they write my jokes for me. I don't have to do anything. I hardly ever have to exaggerate.
And it's effective. It's effective.
It's very
like
effective.
with the National Gathering or the NatGat on Twitter.
Oh my goodness.
That's a joke in and of itself. Now, you've been watching this, and
yeah.
of course they all hate you. But don't you get the sense that this is all marketing? That's one of the things that the left is really good at. They spend all their time on marketing, nothing on substance.
It's all marketing. It was the same thing with the most recent CPAC in D.C., where what you see is a narrative that's only pushed out by a few people who have a lot of followers, or it's only pushed out by a few people with a lot of resources. So what's happened with the Occupy movement is they've lost a lot of mainstream support because they've shown themselves to be what the far left always is,
Right.
Which is ridiculous and violent, and dangerous.
Right.
So they're having a gathering in Philly. It's gone on from the 30th, and now it's going to the 4th,
Right.
They've had a lot of arrests already, and the police are being called pigs.
It's still the same violence that we typically see.
Right, but
all
they
marketing.
use the same tactics with the Occupy movement and with this that they criticize corporate America for using. You have
Right.
images of like attractive women, which most of the women there I do not think are very attractive, like culturally. They have these
And they
images of
tweet on their
beautiful women with
iPhones.
little skirts walking over
Right.
the cities, and the messaging is much like what
Right.
a singles night or a ladies night bar owner would.
Well, we're
pump
going to
out,
have to, we're going to wrap this up right now, but this is a conversation we can continue having.
Definitely.
Brandon Darby, Brandon Morse, MisfitPolitics.co. Thank you guys so much for both being
Thank you
on
for
with me
having
this
us.
afternoon.